Carnage On Sordor 1996, and today I'm going to read the Carnage On Sordor Chapter 2. Isn't that exciting, kids? You just watch people losing blood, and there's like gore anywhere, so it's spoils alert. I shouldn't have said that from the beginning. So, without further ado, let's begin. Let's begin right now. So it's October 11th, 1998, the first day of survival. 8:38 a.m. I woke up to find Ginty and our crews awake and the sound of rain hitting the roof on the shed. We decided to discuss the plan now and agreed that my crew and myself would go and check the docks for any supplies and survivors. Ginty and his crew would stay at Wellsworth in case anyone came by. So I was set off for the docks and Ginty stayed in the sheds for his crew for company. It was very spooky down the line. Dead trees surrounded the tracks. Half of the time, the branches would scratch me on the face sometimes. 9:40 a.m. Sometime later, we arrived at the docks. It was so quiet that the sound of my puffing and my voice were the only sound that echoed around the docks. As we puffed in the docks, we called out if anyone was there, but nothing came. Then, we found a line that led to the station at the docks, and we could see 3 engines at. I so slowly puffed toward the station, but when I saw engines more clearly, when I and my crew looked into the station, and what found was disturbing. We found Boko, Salty, and Neil in the worst condition ever. They were mutated zombies. They were snarling and growling at us. My driver decided to put out their misery. He grabbed a gun, pointed towards their heads, and with 3 gunshots, they were dead. A small tear ran their cheek before they were shot. The sight of their death caused us to cry. But without finding any more survivors and finding any useful supplies, we left the docks and puffed back to Wellsworth. We arrived back at Wellsworth to let Ginty and that know about what we ran into, but we stopped in front of the sheds. We find the shed completely deserted. Okay, so this is the aftermath, October 12th, 1988. 11:45 a.m. Me and my crew still couldn't believe that Ginty would just leave us without leaving a note. But we just had other things to worry about. The island is probably filled with zombie mutated engines, rolling stock, and people. We decided to gather as many weapons from Wellsworth as possible, then drove up to the water tower and coal tower. After being filled up with coal and water, we set off for Tidmouth. 12:15 p.m. We did run into some infected people, but we decided to put out of them in their misery. Eventually, we did make it to Tidmouth, but only to find that there was not much left of Tidmouth. The station and the yards were a mess. Bodies, trucks, dead infected people, and shattered glass laid everywhere. We even saw the remains of what looked to be the Farquhar sheds. There were infected people trying to break the glass, entering remains of dead people, even the trucks. It was so disturbing that my crew vomited, then taking one look at it. I too found it too gory and disturbing to watch, so we continued down the line and didn't even dare to look back. We soon reached Tidmouth sheds, and it to look like Tidmouth Station was the same. We were about to leave when I called out something that I couldn't see in the remains of the sheds. I alerted my crew and told them that I could see what I looked to be an engine inside the shed. They decided to look in these sheds to get a better look, but they came back with the sad news. It was Henry, dead in the sheds. Only hearing this, a small tear slid down my cheek. There was one place that we haven't seen yet, not since the day of the attack, Knapford Station. We arrived not long after leaving Tidmouth sheds. It was kind of an intact but mild damage towards it. I puffed slowly forward into the station, blood and bodies scattered everywhere. My driver suddenly stopped me before the end of the platform. He pointed towards Pug, Diesel, Spencer, and even Toad sitting in a siding, cold and miserable. I looked closer to see a group of men, and one of them looked like to be the leader of the group. We were listening carefully to what they were saying. Group of men. Oh. We are going to make sure that the railway goes down and make sure to get every engine, rolling stock, and vehicle. If you do see one, mutate it as soon as possible. We decided to quickly leave before we were spotted. We didn't stop until we reached Wellsworth. I was sitting in the shed trying to get as much sleep as possible, but the memories kept on flowing in my mind. Even my crew were having a hard time trying to sleep. Then we heard a whistle of an engine. The whistle was all too familiar. It was Edward, and he came to a stop at the platform. A group of workers from the yards exited out of the coaches and started to look in the station building and the yard. I blew my whistle to get their attention. They looked over and saw me, my crew, in the shed. They were delighted to see me and my crew, and we were happy to see them as well. They backed down to the sheds, and we all lit a campfire, and we started telling our side of the story. Edward told us his side of the story, and this is what he told us. I was waiting at Titmus Station when I heard the siren and the explosions and shooting. The passengers got into the coaches, and we raced off. How I lost my eye was because somehow a zombie jumped on me and bit right into my eye. I was screaming in pain because of this, but thankfully, how fast I was going, the zombie couldn't hold on and fell and slammed into the ground. We will be able to survive and get away from the attackers. After he told us this, we spoke for a while until we fell asleep, which didn't take long for our crews and the workmen to fall asleep too. But I couldn't stop thinking that we were being watched from the other side of the tracks. See you in Chapter 3